Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Belmar Public Library's AuthorTime, where we bring to you local authors and other creative personalities to share their works with us. My name is Louis Polito here at the Belmar Public Library, and today we're happy to have with us Stephen Gerard. And Stephen is board chairman of the Leisure Collective International and is also owner of the Americas division of that business. The global company manufactures and sells premium surf equipment and premium sunglasses. He founded his first startup, TJS Advisors, at the age of 40. TJS Advisors was featured in the Inc. 500/5000 list 5 times, was operated on a global scale, and was ultimately involved in buy and sell transactions amounting to roughly $100 million in value. Today, he invests, advises, and owns entrepreneurial business endeavors across the globe. And he and his family are longtime residents of Belmar, and he's here to talk with us about his book, Stuck in the Middle Seat. Everybody, please welcome Steve.
Footnote, I'm not worth $100 million. First, I want to thank everyone for coming. I almost feel like I'm on the 20th Ave, Belmar Beach, with a bunch of people here and a lot of familiar faces. But thanks for taking time out on a busy Saturday. I'm going to talk for 15 or 20 minutes, and then if there's questions or whatever, we can do that. I want to thank Louis and the staff for having me here, and my agent, Patty Fogno.
My pleasure, Stephen.
Yeah, for future bookings, please see Patty, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to go on for about 15 or 20 minutes, as I said. But first thing I'm going to do is start with, I'm going to do 2 or 3 trivia questions. If you don't get the answer, don't sweat it. Who is the first person that I mentioned in my book? Don't sweat it if you can't get
Your
it.
friend.
I'm going to give you the
Your
answer.
wife.
Lori.
My wife.
Lori.
Yes.
Oh, right.
The first person I mentioned in my book, the book is dedicated to my wife Lori because she never wavered. So my first thanks go to Lori. You probably have half a dozen of them. First, a couple things. Why did I write the book? I wrote the book for a couple reasons. I guess I felt I had some useful information to share about an entrepreneurial journey, so I felt that would be good. I did it a little bit out of selfishness because folks would kind of ask me whether I was golfing or surfing or whatever. Is how do you start a business and what do you do? And that's a hard question to answer. So I had written a paper, which were business laws for people to think about an entrepreneur, and it just kind of grew from there. So it was a little bit of selfish, so now I can hand someone a book and go, hey, read that, and then we'll talk later. I didn't do it for money or notoriety. Anyone will tell you if you're an author, don't do it for the money, there's nothing in it. I did it because I enjoyed it, and it's something that had a gravitational pull. So I said, why not? And you get to a certain age in life where you do the things you want to enjoy or you have to, and the rest you just go, no, I'm not going to be bothered. So I kind of enjoyed it, quite frankly. So I'm going to read a little bit from actually 2 things. The first is a diary I kept in the first year of my business. So I started the business in 2004. Anyone who knows me will know I'm not a diary kind of guy. But I did this because every week I wanted to kind of reflect on what happened that week, what I needed to focus on in coming weeks. And frankly, this diary proved to be therapy for me. I'd close my office door at home on a Friday and I'd write in the diary, I'd look back a few weeks, I'd think about the future weeks, and it was almost like a checkpoint for me, where I could think about what was happening. Frankly, this diary grew into the book, and I'll connect the dots as I read a couple things from the diary. So, a couple things I'll read from the diary. The first is the definition of an entrepreneur. I went online and Googled it, and it said, a person who organizes, operates, and assumes the risk for a venture. I think that's a really simple way to say it. If you're an entrepreneur, that's what you do. So that kind of gravitated well with me. Why did I start the business? I got fired. In November 2003. I was head of a division of a small company, and the CEO decided we can't afford these division heads anymore. Brought us in and said, hey, I'm going to have to let you guys go. And it was kind of a funny moment to me, not to make light of being fired. It wasn't for anything salacious. We were just cutting expenses. I usually had been the one, unfortunately, at times having to release or fire people. So when I went to sit down and the CEO sat with me and I said, oh my God, I'm getting fired. Part of me went up on the wall and was looking down at this happening and was like, how's this feel, big guy? You know, I was like, wow. Honestly, I wasn't a good fit with the company. I had one question, would they honor my severance, which they would. And from there, I walked out. I could tell you where I was standing in Princeton, New Jersey on the street with my box of belongings. And I turned back and looked, I said, I'm not doing this anymore. It's time to try and strike out on my own and do something there. So frankly, me starting a business was by forced bravery. I don't know if I ever would have started a business because I was doing well in my career and all that, but getting fired was the best thing that ever happened to me. So I'll read a couple things from that day. My severance did not include benefits, but I can collect unemployment, which will more than make up the difference and provide a nice little buffer. I made some phone calls throughout the day to colleagues and others. Went home and told Lori. Lori was really surprised. She had never seen me fail before or not control a situation, and I think that made her a little uneasy. Good kick in the ass for both of us. Life has been very good, so now we have a test. We talked and decided to keep a secret until after Thanksgiving. No use worrying everybody. And then a couple days later, we had a planned trip to the Keys with Kevin and Judy, and we did some drinking and partying, and I thought long and hard about what I wanted to do. So, one of the things I decided to do is I wanted to have a little office space. So I bartered with some colleagues of mine who had an office in downtown Princeton. And I said, this is going to be great. I'll provide them some advice. I'll help them get some sales leads, and they'll give me a desk, and it'll be the perfect thing to do. So this is an entry from the first day driving from my house in Bluebell, Pennsylvania to Princeton. The funniest start for what I considered my first true week of entrepreneurship. So this is December 1st, 2003. I was caught in the worst traffic jam of my life, and it took 4 hours to do a 50-minute commute. That whole 4 hours, I'm shaking my head going, oh my God, you gotta be kidding me. Upon arriving in the office, the phone was not ready. I had to put my desk together, and nothing was working. The topper, I had left my leather portfolio, which had all of my business plans, everything in it, on the car, outside, and the wind proceeded to blow it all over Princeton. I got into the office, realized I had left my leather portfolio out there, and then proceeded to run around the street picking up all the papers. I'll have Lewis be my proctor here. If you run your hand over this.
Oh my.
That's from car tires running this over. This ironically was my resume. So it wasn't an exciting, robust start to the times of entrepreneurship. Another humbling moment. I had mentioned I got 6 months of benefit, or 6 months of severance, but not health benefits, right? So I went into the pharmacy, and I'll read you the entry. I was in the pharmacy today on December 6th with my 13-year-old daughter, Samantha, and I was denied RX benefits because the computer registered me as terminated. It was embarrassing, but I played it off. I knew it was the lag in my COBRA benefits, but this happened in front of my 13-year-old daughter. Another humbling moment as an entrepreneur. So, it's not all peaches and cream, I guess is my message in the diary here in the beginning. I'll give one last story of humbling moments. It was January 15th, one day before my 41st birthday, and it registered as the coldest day of the century. It was 0 degrees with a -15 wind chill. I had 4 business meetings that day. I drove to Kenilworth, New Jersey. I drove to a meeting in North Jersey further up. I drove into New York City for a meeting, and then I drove up to Connecticut for another meeting. That night in Connecticut, I went to dinner with a colleague, had some drinks, tried to get some business, didn't work out, left. Now it's literally -10 degrees. It's 10 o'clock at night. I had a room at a $55 a night motel, you know, kind of the air conditioning unit, heating unit outside that opens to the street. And as I got out of my car and got to my trunk, I slipped, fell right on my back, and was laying there. It didn't hurt. But it was another humbling moment as you sit there laying on your back and going, oh, how the mighty have literally fallen. So, you know, entrepreneurial journeys are filled with kind of ups and downs. Those are some of the things I wanted to share with you guys. The diary actually started to grow into the 21 Laws of an Entrepreneur, which was the working title for this book. And I'll get to why the book is named what it is in a little bit. But what I found myself doing is, as I was writing in the journal, these things started to become laws. So literally, the book was born, as I said, out of this diary. These were the first 5 laws that I wrote and cut and pasted into the diary. And I'll just read them real quick. Law number 1, nobody really cares. The world wasn't waiting for you to start this business. Get over it. The law of twos. Everything takes twice as long to happen. Everything comes in half as large as you predict, and you'll spend twice as much doing it. The phone rarely rings. Get off your butt and go for it. Law number 4, your ability to celebrate and recuperate from daily successes and failures is going to be a key to success. And law number 5 is once you start, you truly never go back. Those 5 grew into 10, grew into 20, etc., etc. April 10th. This is going to make my mom emotional. April 10th, handwritten note from Dad. Might make me emotional. Wait a minute. If I can read it. I'll let you read it. Just read the yellow post-it.
Dear Stephen, Mother and I continue to be so proud of you and your efforts, your efforts to get a new company up and going, that we want to be part of the effort. All our love, Mom and Pop.
And it came with a check for $2,000, which I cashed in the end. Yeah. By the way, Mom, I owe you $100,000 for your share of the company. June 14th, another story. Procter & Gamble. I had 2 clients. I needed to get 5 to start this business that I was starting. And Procter & Gamble got them on the phone from my house in Bluebell, and I thought the meeting went great. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get Procter & Gamble. I didn't know anybody there. My first 2 clients, I knew people, so they were kind of helping me. So 2 hours later, I get an email. Procter & Gamble decided not to join it. And I was like, oh my God, I blew it. You know, like I thought I had this. So one of the laws I discovered is you got to see people face to face. So I made an excuse and told Procter & Gamble in Cincinnati, Ohio, I was going to be in the area the next 2 weeks. Would they see me? I was not going to be in Cincinnati, Ohio, but I was willing to get on a plane, go see them face to face, and try to reconvince them. And that's what happened. They gave me a time, they gave me a date. I flew out, I met with the same 2 people who had said no. I listened to their objections, handled their objections, adapted my idea. And by the time I flew back to Philadelphia Airport, another one of those moments, I could tell you where I was standing in Philadelphia Airport to this day when I got the voicemail that said they were joining. And that was another law. 1's an anomaly, 2 clients is a trend, 3 means you may really be onto something. And Procter & Gamble was my 3rd client, and it was super meaningful for me. So, in my travels, I told you about the story of falling flat on my back alone. I think I was in a spring, well, it's actually written on a Spring Hill Suites Marriott from somewhere in Chicago. And I wrote a note to myself, because it was just me. It's funny when you're on the road alone starting your own business. There's no one to tell you your tie is crooked. There's no one to read the map as you drive. Sorry, Waze and Google Maps, I didn't miss that. There's no one to meet for breakfast, no one to say good job or good answer after a presentation, no one to laugh with, and Starbucks becomes your proxy for sitting around with people that you might know. So once again, just one of those moments as an entrepreneur that was meaningful to me. So this is August. So now I'm into September. All right, so 9 months in business. Things are going pretty good. I'm starting to get clients. This business is starting to do well. So I'll just read the entry from the weeks of September 13th and 20th, because to me it's about the hard work that entrepreneurs put in. I'm totally inundated with work, thankfully. Have worked every weekend, usually 6 hours each, Saturday and Sunday, doing all of the Excel tables, all of the data entry, literally soup to nuts. And this is going to show you what a geek I am for data. I'm a little disappointed I haven't had any new client meetings, but I've been buried by actually doing the work. As I started to put all of the Excel tables and results into my computer, I started to get really excited at what I was seeing. What a geek, right? But that's the business I started. I enjoy sitting and then analyzing things and looking at numbers and making decisions. So this business was right in my sweet spot. I remain very optimistic clients are going to ooze when they see this data. We'll see if it answers their questions and it lives up to standards. How are clients going to ooze and seeing a bunch of data? But I was wrapped up in it, so I was excited by it. That's just me, as Lori probably would attest to. By December, it had gotten to 21 immutable laws of the entrepreneur. And that literally was the springboard 17 years later to the book. I'll read the summary for the diary, and then I'll go to the book. So end of December. So all in all, year one was a success. While I always strive and want a little more, when I consider the alternatives, it could be a much different picture. I'm nervous enough to know I still have a lot to do and a lot to prove, but I am confident in the fact that if I can focus on the right priorities and not get distracted, 2005 could be a very exciting time. It's much like Christmas Eve, very exciting to live with the prospect and the expectations of the next day and the presents and things you're going to open. So that was the diary that I kept, and I often read it and refer to it. Oh, by the way, you can download a free copy of that whole diary. I've anonymized it so no one gets insulted that I worked with. It's on that flyer that was there. There's a website, StephenEGerard.com. You could literally just go there and download the whole diary if you're bored, or it rains the entire week. So now I'll talk a little bit about the book, and then we'll take some questions and things. So the name for the book, Stuck in the Middle Seat. The working title was The 21 Laws of the Entrepreneur. Then it became The 5 Phases because 21 Laws has been used and overused, and I knew I didn't want to call it that. I thought the 5 phases of being a mid-career entrepreneur was kind of lifeless. So I gave my manuscript to a bunch of colleagues to read. One of my colleagues, Shahir, and I had coffee in Philadelphia, and he said to me as we started, he goes, I have the name for your book. He goes, it's called Stuck in the Middle Seat. And I said, all right, you got my attention. He said yesterday he was in the Philadelphia airport flying to Boston at 6 a.m. They came on the loudspeaker and said, the flight, we're going to be delayed 10, 15 minutes, some issues. They come on a little later, we're going to be delayed half an hour or an hour. He said all the savvy travelers got out their phone and started looking for alternative flights. He goes, about 4 of us found a flight 2 terminals away. We picked up our stuff and literally running to get to that terminal. And he said, as we were getting on the plane, we were the last people on. Every one of us was getting plopped into a middle seat. And at that moment, when I saw us all sweating, huffing and puffing, I said, this is exactly what this book is meant for. That mid-career professional who's running around the country, working hard, doing consulting or legal work or accounting work or advisory work, and they're getting stuck in the middle seat. And when they plop in that middle seat, they say, there's got to be a better way. So when he told me that story, I was like, Shahir, thank you very much. I'll give you 5 free books. So that's how the name of it came around. So I'll read a couple of things from the book, and then we'll take questions. As I said, it's organized into 5 phases. I'm not going to bore you with each phase, but really it is 21 laws that I've kind of bucketed under 5 phases. And the whole book is about what my experience was, is becoming a mid-career entrepreneur. Fancy way of saying someone who's probably 40 to 55 years old and trying to start a business. What I often say to folks in college and younger folks is, I want to start a business, and what I say to those folks is, learn, lead, leverage. Learn when you're in your 20s. Learn your profession, learn your industry, work as hard as you can. Don't start a business yet. Learn about it. You learn what you like to do and learn what you don't like to do. Then lead. You'll start to lead teams, lead projects, lead divisions, lead companies. Leadership is a skill that takes time to learn. Then when you hit your mid-career, leverage your learnings and your leadership skills to start a business. So anyway, the point is this book is about people like me who might want to start a business. The first thing is an obvious thing, but I have to tell you I struggled with it, is getting the idea. How is it you get the idea from your business? We've all heard endlessly, do what you love, and you never work another day in your life. I heard it, I just didn't know how to consume it and wear it and find what I loved. So what I found is in my world, I developed 3 things that told me what I was going to love. When you're going to be doing it, you start to get excited. So if anyone in this room on Tuesday, you're going to do something, you're like, I can't wait till Tuesday, that's a rubric for what you love. When you're doing it, you lose track of time. You look up and go, oh my God, where did 3 hours go? You're consumed by it. And the last one was probably the most meaningful for me, is when somebody interrupts you, you get angry, right? So if I'm in my office analyzing and doing things and little kids knocking at the door or Lori's yelling for something, I kind of get angry because I'm like, oh, I'm doing what I love, leave me alone. So when I looked at those three things, for me it was analysis. Like I said, spreadsheets and things. The mistake I was making is I was working from the outside in instead of like this, the inside out. And the outside in was, I wanted to start a business, so I thought about the internet in mid-2000s. Everyone's talking about the internet, everyone's getting rich off the internet, everyone's doing great things on the internet. The problem is, I didn't know crap about the internet. So trying to start an internet business was exactly the wrong premise. But doing what you love and working inside out is the premise. So that was the first thing in the book, doing what you love. So another part of the book is distinguishing hope from reality. All right, we're all hopeful as entrepreneurs and business people, but sometimes the reality doesn't mirror that. So I'm just going to read this one page for you. My recommendation, keep a detailed account of your sales targets and prospects. It was a religion for us in the business. From the early days and for years to come, we kept detailed sales pipelines report for prospects and sales targets. We called it the gap report. Frankly, I would hope that it was pretty standard in any business and anyone religiously measured their sales targets. The mistake I made in the early days is that I was proud to have a long list of sales prospects. It felt good to have a large sales funnel, to look at it and say, oh my gosh, look at everything we've got. The problem was that list was based more in hope than reality. And the reality was half of that list was probably fiction. And to get caught up and think you have more prospects than you do was my way of learning hope differs from reality. And as an entrepreneur, someone who needs to make money, you need to spend more for the bulk of your time in reality. Law number 12. You are on your own, and that's okay. You heard me probably say that in a diary. Never let success get to your head, and never let failure get to your heart. This law is about loneliness, whether actual or metaphorical. I would assert that being on your own is something you should actually relish. I did. Don't get me wrong though, while it's scary, it really boils down to your own self-confidence. You have to believe in your own ability to succeed without any or much help. Don't confuse self-confidence with a brashness or cockiness. It is not. It is a self-confidence born out of the belief that you have the right ideas and the innate ability to adapt and succeed with them. I believe that loneliness is self-confidence's fuel. Any feelings of loneliness should be fueled with positive thoughts that better and less lonely days are coming. So another law I had. The last one I'll share, and then I'll do one more trivia. I'm the owner of a global surf business that Lewis talked about. It's the law of twos. I mentioned it in the diary. It takes twice as long to achieve something that you think because the world wasn't waiting for you. You'll spend twice as much getting there, and you'll end up probably getting about half as much. That's not a negative law. It's just a way of understanding things take time. The world wasn't waiting for you to do this. We have operations all over the world, offices in Western Australia, California. In 2015, we decided to launch Otis sunglasses. We believed we would do a couple hundred thousand in sales the first year. In year 2, we would do $1 million in sales. Well, the law of twos once again kicked me in the butt, and it took us 5 years to get to $1 million in sales, and we spent twice as much getting to that, et cetera, et cetera. So once again, out of the diary, I learned the law of twos, and I decided to share it in the book. The last trivia I have is, who is the last person I mentioned in the book?
Tricky.
Who said Doris?
I knew she'd be in there somewhere.
So So I talked about my family's entrepreneurial experience. My dad was a part-time insurance business, which nowadays we call a side hustle. He was a high school teacher, and he got that business from my grandfather Carmine. That entrepreneurial insurance business helped our middle-class family live a very good life with the support of my mom, Doris. They were able to carve out a great life and a great family. My mom was a legal secretary and also did typing at home after raising a family in retirement. She actually helped a retired judge get his book to a manuscript. My entrepreneurial genetics go back for generations. So, first of all. So the last person I want to mention, and then I think I stayed good to my time limit, is my mother-in-law, Carol. Ever since I met Lori 36 years ago, she's become a second mom to me. And I just wanted to make sure you were recognized and you know how important you are in my life. So. She also has a half a dozen at home. So with that, I'll just maybe sit down.
All right, thank you, Stephen. Now, I want to start with, I want to let the audience drive the conversation for the next few minutes before I start asking any questions. Does anybody have a question for Stephen to get started? Yes?
I have a question. The business that you got fired from, was that the premise for starting your new business, or was it a totally new endeavor?
Totally new endeavor. So the business I was fired from did online learning, and the business I started, TGAS Advisors, was benchmarking and analytics for pharmaceutical companies. So yeah, totally different.
Sir?
Steve, I'm sorry if I missed the beginning, and maybe you mentioned this before we walked in, but the temptation to go back to a regular paycheck and a regular job must have been huge. And how did you fight that and still push forward with this idea? Because like it had to be tough at the very first couple of years to resist the urge of a steady paycheck.
No, that's a great point. So one or two thoughts. I said to Lori, I said, you need to keep me honest in these first 6 months. We had about 6 months to a year to do it. Between the severance pay and the money we had saved, I said, we've got about a year where we're not going to be too in the hole. Yeah, and meanwhile, we have twins that are freshmen in high school and a younger son, so college is right around the corner. But anyway, I said to Lori, I said, you have to keep me honest. And if you sense maybe it's not going well or whatever, you need to go, are you sure? So I think, God bless her, in the first 3 months she might have said to me, like, are you sure once? and I probably killed her. I was like, are you kidding me? This is going to work. But she was just trying to keep me honest, and she was always supportive, as I said at the book. You know what, Mark? I was fortunate is within the first 6 months, I had probably 5 clients. And then in the next couple of months, I added more. So I was able to get to cash flow positive pretty quick. So I was fortunate is the idea worked, and it worked pretty quickly, so I didn't have to think about that. But believe me, having for 20 years gotten a paycheck and benefits and everything, it was right in the back of my mind. So early success kind of had me go, not going back.
You didn't have to drought for that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Steve, you talk about honesty, humility, and people seeing that from the other side. Real important traits. Want to talk about that?
You know what? What's the term? WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. You know, I always felt that just being honest with people. If you needed help, ask for it. If you needed to give help, give it. I was just raised to be honest. You know, and humility is. You know, my mom even said walking in, her friends were giving her a hard time about her not telling them about the book and all that. And my mom said something that I practice, which is people find out. If it's interesting and it's good and it's noteworthy, people will find out. You know, I was raised under the moniker self-praise stinks. You know, if you're doing something good, people will notice. Just keep doing it, enjoy it, and rock on. So that's probably how I was raised. So.
Sir, in the back?
Yes. Steve, you're my brother-in-law. I've known you for like 34 years. It's been very cool to watch you grow and be so successful. That's the first thing. Second thing is the publishing of a book is amazing, and it shows, it tests to your ability to stay focused. So what I wanted to ask you was, what was your process of writing? Like, how did you take it from beginning to end? Because I'm sure a lot of people have ideas of books, but that's one thing. Finishing it is another.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. The diary gave birth to the laws gave birth to what became like a 15-page paper. So I felt like I wanted to hand somebody something if they were wondering about starting a business. Then I decided, to your question, how do I take the 15 pages to a book? I tested myself to see if I liked it, writing, and I did. As a matter of fact, I would go to local libraries, whether I was here or California, and I would go to a library and for 3 or 4 hours bury myself in a corner and write. And I would be consumed by it. I would look up and the time had gone by and I enjoyed it. If somebody interrupted me, I'd get pissed. So I enjoyed it. So I literally decided over a 6-month period in 2019, I'm gonna write this. So once a week, I got myself up, went to a library and pecked away, and it became the book. So just, that's how I did it. I'll go one step further, so now I have this manuscript. Now what do you do with it? So I started researching, and I met with a few people who had written books and done things. The options were you could self-publish it, or find a publisher, or a hybrid model. And the publisher's not going to be interested in me. I'm nobody. I'm not like this famous business author. Self-publishing was going to be a lot of work for me, so I found a hybrid model, which is Advantage Media, who has a relationship with Forbes. And I submitted my manuscript, and they said we would do this. And I paid them. Once again, they weren't, someone said, how'd you get on the Forbes platform? I said, you want to be honest? You pay for it. And I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it with everything I can, in the best way I can, and whatever happens, happens. So, thank you for your compliment.
I just want to finish by saying you didn't mention me in your book, but I'm okay.
I've heard that from a few people. You'll be in the next one. Yeah, the next one, as a matter of fact, there'll be a whole chapter.
Several parts of the book, you mentioned conversations you had with various people, okay? Whether you're interviewing them or talking to various people in terms of such as getting the idea for your book. How did you go about determining who was the right people to talk to, and how did you know who to ignore? Who were the right people to ignore?
So, the answer feels kind of obvious, but when you go to someone and have an idea or you're asking for help, and they spend the bulk of the time talking about themselves, you found the wrong person. And it's just that way. I golf with some guys who talk about their golf game endlessly, and you could barely get a word in edgewise, and I'm like, I'm just going to listen. So I wouldn't bring them ideas. So if they're going to talk about themselves or not, ask you questions or be curious, they're the wrong people. The right people listen and provide advice. And they also do another thing is, I found those people will come back to you days or weeks later with something like, hey, I was thinking about what you said. Or, you know what, I know someone who might be able to help you or give you better advice. So they become like a gateway, and they're engaged with giving you good advice. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Anybody else questions so far? Yes.
Just watching your whole career go through, being on the other side of it now, do you have any regrets? Like, whatever.
Yeah. Lord, there's something I haven't told you. No. That's my humor. But she said too late now. I know where all the stuff is. You know what? I don't. And that's not it doesn't mean I haven't made, as you said, my share of mistakes and trips and falls. I just don't. And I'll answer your question a different way. I know some people who, and it's never enough, whether it's money or things, and that's a mistake I keep trying not to make. Like, I have enough, That doesn't mean, don't get me wrong, if I want a little more and this and that, I'm not complacent, but I have enough. So the only thing I avoid is that quest for more, So that's a mistake I keep trying not to make, and I think I'm kind of beyond it. But no, nothing else kind of rings a bell. I think the path was decent. Good question.
Any other questions, Laura? Yes, sir.
What are your thoughts about the surf company? Where are you going to be in 5 years?
So the surf company, it sells surf equipment, so everything but a surfboard, leashes, traction pads, board bags, and sunglasses, just to give everyone a context. The headquarters is in Western Australia, and we have an operation in the US. I think the surf company in 5 years has the potential to become a sizable company. And size, I don't measure by dollars and cents. There's a book I love called Small Giants. And Small Giants, the premise of the book is you don't need to have a certain size or scale. You just need to be meaningfully in your industry, known in your industry, and you could push your way around if you had to. Much like the Fringillo Empire. Right? So I think we can become a small giant in surf equipment and sunglasses. And I think it actually can become a sizable company. We've got about 30 or 40 people in Western Australia. That might grow by 50%, and we've already grown by 50% in our California headquarters. So I think it can become meaningful. The other thing too is maybe it'll employ more and more family members. My son has worked for the company for 5 years, and my daughter just joined 6 months ago. And if we have opportunities and family wants to join, that's kind of what that business is being built for. So when you retire, Neil, we'll need a CFO.
I have a question now. How do you keep yourself accountable to your goals, to your tracks? Because a lot of times there's these temptations, and you kind of mention it in your book when you talk about the list of clients. You know, you have this big list of like clients that are what ifs, maybes, and then you have that smaller list of people who are really put together. How do you keep yourself accountable to not blowing this up so you can stay focused on the real group?
I have I'm anal. That's one answer.
Okay.
I have a strategy map that I update every 6 months for my family and my life. And it literally has what mine and Lori's goal is in life. And it has the things that are important. And then every 6 months it has literally bullet points of what needs to happen. And I'm pretty religious. Every month or two I look at it. It's one of my rubrics when I'm on a plane. I always pull it out and I checkpoint it. So I try to keep myself honest by looking at that. In the beginning, I used to sit down with Lori and go, hey, let's go through our strategy map, and her eyes would glaze over. She was like, I trust you got it right, just let's keep rolling. So anyway, I'm pretty diligent about this one-page piece of paper that keeps me honest.
Okay. Any other questions so far? Nope. All right. I have one last question myself, and then we can go if anyone else has any more. Tell us about your adventure publishing the book. What have you, any surprises, any shocks? What's your experience been?
It's been great. I'd recommend it to anybody. If it pulls you in and it's something you gravitate to. In deciding to go with a hybrid publisher and Forbes, there's a whole marketing program that I bought. So I've been on about a dozen TV stations, 5-minute little blurbs, no major markets. You have a television in Alabama, I'd probably blitzkrieg it there. But that's been fun. I've done, nowadays you do podcasts and things and blogs. That's all been gratifying. I think I've sold, if I can use that word, 1,000 books. So, like I said, don't do it for money, unless you've got something that's going to be amazing, and God bless, I hope you do. But it's been gratifying. I'll summarize it this way. I did it because I wanted to do it, and I thought it would be fun, and it's been fun. It satisfied me, and it's been gratifying. And the icing on the cake is my wife and family and mother-in-law and mom sitting here, buttons bursting at this event. So that was worth the price of admission.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for coming today, spending our time with us, and to Steve. And Steve, thank you for coming to us today. I want to thank everybody watching live on our Facebook stream. I hope you enjoyed the show as well. Everyone, if you want to learn more about what we have going on at the library, please follow us on our Facebook page and check out our website on www.belmarlibrary.org. Thank you again for coming. Have a great day. We look forward to seeing you next time.